Hey guys, how's it going? Kripparrian here, back for another card review. Well, it's actually only been a few days and I have like 20 cards. These cards are getting pumped out like crazy right now. And we've been away for a few days because we did the trip to the falls. Thank you guys so much for checking us out on Twitter, Instagram, and our IRL streams during that time. But yeah, we've missed quite a lot of cards, so let's get to it here. Paladin's getting a new twin spell that gives a friendly minion lifesteal. So you basically get to cast this, it goes back to your hand, you cast it a second time. It's a pretty powerful effect. A lot of people underestimate the value of lifesteal on a minion. It's basically putting a massive target on your minion. Well, you can't really win the game unless you kill that minion first. It's a huge heal. Now, Paladins have had heals in the past, but this is really on another level. I consider this a very strong heal. I think a lot of people will underestimate this card, generally, and maybe rightfully so, because if you're playing a control-oriented Paladin, it can be very difficult to actually stick a large minion on the board. But honestly, with Rush these days, with a lot of the cards you have to kill multiple times, who knows? Maybe actually this has some potential after all. I'm going to give it 3 stars, and if you want to check out the star system, make sure to check out the first review in the series. 3 stars basically means it needs a decent bit of help. It might be a good card, but it's going to need some help from others, and well, if it doesn't get this expansion, it's a card you probably have to take a look at in the expansions that come afterwards. More twin spells, we got one from Hunter. Unleash the Beast. So this is a very strong card. You get a 5/5 with Rush for 6. Is that worth it? Well, it's not. It's not exactly great value for a 6, but it allows you to have a lot of late game in your deck without having too many late game cards, let alone even one late game card. A 6-mana card is not really that late game. So you add weight to your deck without completely destroying your curve. So if you look at it, yes, you can play this turn after turn, but you can start playing on turn 6. So it's actually, even better than playing like a 7-drop or an 8-drop of your choice, and you get enough value to play it later. So you basically play this instead of like an 8 or 9 drop. And playing a Hunter, that's a pretty big advantage. So even just one of these cards, let alone the twin spell effect, is very strong. We also have to consider the fact that most hero cards are exiting standard, but not Zul'jin. And Zul'jin is extremely strong with this. Extremely strong. I think you even get the twin-spelled copy back to your hand a second time when you play Zul'jin. So it's this crazy synergy with probably what is to be one of the most powerful end-game hero cards left. So very strong card. I'm going to give it 4 stars. I don't think it'll be like meta-defining. I don't think it's super insane. Hunter still has to find a new way through the meta as it's losing a lot of its cards, so it can be pretty difficult for it to find a way. This might be it, but it's not going to be solely because of this card. But if we get some more powerful twin spells, especially minion generating twin spells, well, Unleash the Beast is certainly going to carry it then. We have a Druid Legendary Keeper, Stalladris. We're going to pre-rate this card 5 stars. It's just no-brainer for me. This is a 2-cost 2/3, and you have to keep in mind that for the 2-drop slot, it's been so non-competitive lately that people have brought back cards like Amani Berserker. So, this is just pretty solid. 2-cost 2/3, and if it gives you anything later, well, that's just good enough to see play right now. That's just how the game works right now. And the effect's actually very powerful. If you cast a choose one spell, you get both copies to your hand. So that's really powerful. You cast like Rats, Starfall. We have some cards coming up pretty soon that you'll have to keep in mind this card exists. If you cast one of those, you get both copies, both options as cards to your hand. That's incredible. If that happens once, this card is super good value. So, nice stuff. Never Surrender is a new secret for Paladin. When your opponent casts a spell, give your minions +2 health. So, is that really worth a card? Is that really worth 1 mana? Not really. But you have to keep in mind, it's going up against other Paladin secrets. Are most Paladin secrets worse or better than that? truthfully, most Paladin secrets are worse than that, and we still have some secret mechanics for Paladin, so it's not a bad card. I would rate Never Surrender 3 stars, closing it on 4, but I'll give it 3. I don't think Secret Paladin is one of the decks that's going to emerge in the next expansion. We haven't really seen enough support cards, but Never Surrender certainly starts the chain. It's a very good secret, but, you know, if we get another good secret or another secret cheating mechanic, then it's going to make it. It's not going to build Secret Paladin just because of this card. It's a pretty strong effect. A lot of people underestimate how much setup plays require specific health totals on minions. Even playing Mage, you know, doing like Frost Nova so you can Blizzard next turn, or, you know, Blizzard so you can Flame Strike next turn. Never Surrender is really going to mess with that. And a lot of the time, these decks that rely on spells, they don't really have the minions to test for the other secrets. So it's a very powerful tool in like the secret package that Paladin has available, but I just don't think it's quite there yet. Evil Genius for Warlock. Battlecry, destroy a friendly minion, add 2 random lackeys to your hand. So, in short, lackeys are 1-cost minions that have about the weight and impact for about 2-cost minions. So, basically, you have to lose a minion, and you basically get 2 mana advantage in the next few turns as you play out these lackeys. So it's a pretty powerful effect. Evil Genius is actually a pretty strong card, but, you know, you're basically talking about playing Zoo in a way where you have to have minions to kill off. It's an okay card if you're killing off a 1-1, and lackeys are 1-1s. So, well, it sucks for lackeys, but, you know, it's a pretty consistent effect. I'm going to give Evil Genius 4 stars. I think it's a very strong card. And it really does have the potential to take Warlock Zoo to the next level. You know, a few more cards that introduce lackeys in a convenient way, or some more cards that want to be killed, like more eggs or something. If we get more cards like that, Evil Genius is really going to shine in the Zoo archetype. Evil Conscriptor is a priest kind of similar version. It's a 2-cost 2/2, and the death rattle just adds a lackey to your hand. So you're kind of getting like a 1-cost 2/2 with some more value later in terms of mana, tempo, you know, all bundled up. It's a pretty good Zoo card, but you're talking about priest. So, yeah, I don't know. They've certainly tried Zoo Priest over the years. It's just really struggled. So, you know, I'm not going to be in, oh, wow, this card's really good. And yeah, Zoo Priest is totally going to make it now. That's not the case, okay? Zoo Priest has some really big struggles, so I can't give this card more than 2 stars. It's a pretty strong card if it was just for any of the other classes, but it's not. It's for the class that really sucks at playing Zoo. So it needs a tremendous amount of help to get past that stage, and, well, I'm waiting, Blizzard. Hunter Legendary, number 2. This is Vereesa Windrunner. I don't really remember this character in the game, but in any case, it's a crappy statted 7 cost, 5/6. That's really bad stats. 5/6 is what you expect from a 5-drop, actually. And even then, playing Hunter, playing a 5-drop can be pretty tricky because it kind of like, you still need like Beast Synergy, you still need a few other things. Nah, this has got nothing, except you get Thoradol. So let's check out Thoradol. You have to attack and you get spell damage for the turn. You get to equip it automatically. So yeah, it's kind of worth like 7 mana. It's just pretty tough to say. I think right now, this legendary is, I dare say, 3 stars. It needs quite a lot of help, but, if they come up with like some kind of twin spell that does like 3 damage for 2 mana or something, like suddenly you're in business, right? So like, you don't know. This is really a card that could change fairly quickly. So imagine, this doesn't exist, but imagine there is a deal 3 damage for 2 Hunter card to anything, right? So like you just attack with your Thoradol and then you play 2 of those off 1 card. Maybe you have 2 copies of those. You play 4 of those. Your opponent's like dead, right? So the problem right now is generally that Hunter doesn't have that many spells that do damage that you'd want to put in your deck anyway. And because this is a legendary card, it's pretty difficult to set up a whole deck with bad cards that would have synergy off of a single copy of one card in your deck. That doesn't really push the consistency boundary, so I have to say it's really weak right now, but that can change pretty quickly, so keep your eyes open. Hench-Clan Hogsteed is a new neutral card here. This is a very powerful card. I think it's going to be a staple in Zoo, and as such, Zoo always sees play in some way or another. I have to give this card 5 stars. It's a bit of a surprise to some, but let me tell you why. You basically get a 2-cost 2/1 that can attack right away, and the Death Rattle gives you a 1/1 Murloc at the very end. So you get the Murloc synergy. You can play it in a Murloc deck. You get the Beast synergy. Having Rush is very strong, and having Death Rattles also synergy you sometimes have to consider. But at a base, if you're playing a deck that, you can play cards that buff others' attack situationally, especially things, like the Flame Tongue Totem or Direwolf Alpha or something like that. You can get a lot of damage out of this card, and you get a body at the very end. It pushes you on the board. It's just so strong in that regard. I imagine this is going to see play in lots of Hunter decks. It's going to see play in lots of Zoo decks, particularly Warlock, and anyone that wants to run those attack buffers. So maybe even Shaman will have a Zoo deck, and this will be one of the core cards. This will be one of the cards you want in your opening hand in all of those decks, basically. All right, guys, it's time for the big one. Jepetto Joybuzz. 8-cost 6/6. Battlecry draws 2 minions from your deck, and you set their attack and health cost to 1. So we had a Tavern Brawl where minions cost 1 mana and they're 1/1s. And, basically things like, Malagos, things like Mecha'thun. There's just a lot of cards that are completely insane when they are 1 mana 1/1s. So this card does actually potentially break the game, and it's just a matter of consistency. This card is as good as you can make that whole deck and how consistent that whole deck can be. So if you can have a deck that has like 2 or 3 combo-based win conditions, and if Jepetto hits any one of them, Jepetto is going to be a really good card. But, you have to have the win conditions, and Jepetto has to potentially speed it up and also not screw up the potential combos. So, it's just a really tricky card to see play. You really have to give faith in Blizzard. Has Blizzard adequately run the numbers and seen what's possible with this set and the next? Because they're typically one expansion in advance in the development cycle. This card can certainly break the game, but it's really in Blizzard's hands in their testing department if it will actually break the game. And I think Blizzard's direction is not combo decks, so I think the consistency of this card would be rather weak. But you know what? I think that us Hearthstone players were a little bit clever in their testing department, so I think this card's going to make it. I don't think it's going to be like the number one game-breaking thing, but I think it's going to make it in some form or another. On faith, I give Jepetto Joybuzz 4 stars. And I think so because there's probably going to be some sneaky way where you can have a multi-combo victory condition deck that doesn't really get too much worse from playing Jepetto. And if you get Jepetto on one of your combo pieces, you basically win instantaneously. I think that's totally possible, and I think someone's going to figure it out. And the more the game ages, the more options there will be. So the more options there will be for players to figure it out. There's some chance that Jepetto is going to be really terrible in the next expansion, but the expansion after that, well, it's going to be a whole new story once again. Dragon Speaker, 5-cost 3/5, give all dragons in your hand +3/+3. So I guess we're getting Dragon Paladin back. Right now the Dragon package is pretty crap, so we're going to have to rely on Paladins getting some more dragons. And how good is this card if Paladins get some more dragons? Because they do get more dragons, the very next card is a dragon. No, it's not bad. If you buff 1 dragon in terms of total value, you're getting 5-cost 6/8. Right, that's actually just pretty good. The main thing is you can't really count the late game dragons. So this is why. The late game dragons, they kind of don't really die anyway. So it really counts only if you hit early game and mid game dragons, because those are the minions that don't get polymorphed, for example, or mind controlled, for example. So yeah, how many of those do we have right now? Not that many, but the effect is really powerful. I'm going to give Dragon Speaker 4 stars. It's like a scary, powerful effect, and this could actually be the center point of that deck. So it doesn't require as much help as it requires just some chump dragons. We just need volume. Dragon volume is what we need for Dragon Speaker to get out of control. So the very next card, Bronze Herald. Look at that. 3 cost, 3/2 dragon for Paladin. Add 2 4/4 dragons to your hand on the death rattle. So dragon volume is exactly what we're getting. I think this card is pretty strong. Paladins, a lot of the time they play aggro. They want to play pretty efficient cards. And let me tell you, the 3-drop slot is not highly contested. This card can fit into decks besides Dragon Paladin, and the power level of the card itself is really high. Bronze Herald, in my opinion, gets a 4-star rating. It doesn't like break the game by itself, but you know, it's certainly very good. I think the Dragon Volume archetype for Paladin might be one of the things to look out for in this expansion. And if not, we know that cards that rely on cross synergy like dragons, they kind of peak when there's the most cards in the game. So if the dragons don't make it, next expansion they might make it. And the last expansion of the year that we're going to get, probably December-ish, that expansion is the one to watch out for. There's extremely high chance we're going to see Dragon Paladin in that one. Master Resurrection, new priest card. I'll save you guys some time. I think this card is absolute garbage. I'm going to give it 1 star. I think it has absolutely no hope. The resurrect mechanic kind of worked in this set, but nearly all of the cards that made it work, that made it combo, that let you do anything, well, they're rotating out. So Master Resurrection's kind of just a weak card, even if that pool existed. Summon 3 friendly minions that died this game. It's not different. So, the dream is that you only lose 1 big minion and then you just summon 3 copies of it. But man, that's far away. That's a 9 mana cost. You're gonna tell me you're gonna play priest and you're gonna get away with playing no minions for 9 turn, let alone draw this and your few big minions that you actually want to trigger off of this. Oh boy, it's a really tough sell. But who knows? We might get some mechanics that really cheat out minions, and the card could work. I just don't have a whole lot of faith in the mechanic. I think it's basically dead already. Sludge Slurper. We got Shaman. We got Lackeys. Shaman's evil is expansion. Didn't you know that? So Sludge Slurper, I think, is a 5-star card. I'll tell you why. It's basically similar to Firefly. It's similar to any kind of self-curving out card. You play Sludge Slurper, which is a 1-cost 2/1, which is a pretty decent stat line, especially if you're playing a Zoo deck. And you get a Lackey. You do get to overload, but remember, Lackeys are typically 2 mana value cards that cost 1 mana. So if you're playing this and then the Lackey that you generated literally off of this, you're going to get a fairly optimal 1-drop, 2-drop curve opening the game. And it's off of 1 card. And, well, it's also a Murloc. It also has the Battle Cry. You also get the Lackeys. You also have the Overload. So, it's a huge package. There's tons of potential for synergy. And even if you have none of the synergy, it's a very good card. So, certainly one of the front runners for the expansion right now. Crystal Stag, 5-cost 4/4 rush, battle cry. If you've restored 5 health this game, summon a copy of this. So this is a very strong card, but the thing is, it's a very strong card on turn 5. If you take a look at this card and, you start to go through the game, like on turn 10, it's not that strong of a card. So Crystal Stag is pretty good, but how consistently can you heal for 5 total throughout a game? It's probably pretty easy to do throughout a game, but to do it before turn 5, I think is quite a challenge. You actually have to take a decent amount of damage to heal for 5. We also have to consider the best card that would activate this is the one that healed all of your stuff for 2. That card is Cycling out of Standard. If that card was in Standard, I'd probably give Crystal Stag at least a 4-star, maybe a 5-star rating. I'd probably give it a 5-star rating. I think it's just crazy good. This consistency is there. But it does need some help right now. I think it needs quite a bit of help, but I have a little bit of faith in this. It's just, it's got the rush mechanic. It can really crush those zoo decks. And I think we're going back to a classic value control and a classic, tempo zoo. And in that environment, I think Crystal Stag has a good chance. I'm going to optimistically give it 4 stars. I think it can make it, but it is going to need a little bit more help to really get there. Crystal Power, new Druid card. Well, look at that. It heals you for 5. Now, you probably want to heal a minion, by the way, for 5. And again, it's kind of an issue to get the full value off of that before playing the Stag that we just talked about. Again, that's kind of the problem with the Stag. It's difficult to make that work quickly enough. So Crystal Power is obviously a very good card. You're going to put this in every single Druid deck moving forward until this card cycles out of Standard. So it's a no-brainer 5-star card. It's just too good to not play. You can heal, you can do damage, you have synergy with the 2-drop Druid Legendary. When you play a choose spell, you get both copies back to your hand, which basically means you're playing that card in every Druid deck. You're playing this card in every Druid deck. Hey, look, the cards you're going to play in every single Druid deck in the next 2 years, well, they synergize one another. Wow, so obviously they're both insanely good. Basically, Blizzard's rebuilding the Druid core this expansion, and this is what it looks like. 5 stars, boys. New Warlock Legendary, Fel Lord Betrug. It's an 8-cost 5/7 demon, and you draw a minion, summon a copy with Rush that dies until end of turn. So there's some really crazy synergies with this card. It has to do with self-killing effects. So anything that, you have sacrifice your own minions, anything that draws you cards like the Solarium, which draws you 3 that you then discard. That's crazy. This plus Solarium is completely broken. You also have, if this survives a turn, and it might. I mean, it's a 7 health guy. It might survive a turn. If you're playing Zoo, I think it's definitely going to survive a turn. So you actually can have some really crazy combos with sacrifice effects. You can have combos with Void Terror, for example. There's some really good stuff out there. This card is a very high potential card. I don't think it's there quite yet, but it's very close. I think this card is 4 stars, bordering on the verge of 5. It just needs a few more kind of, self-killing mechanics to really push it off, and maybe some more draw mechanics to really push it off. The core of the problem with this card is consistency, so you can't really play it in a deck that completely revolves around it, because, well, what if this is your last card? What if it's like the bottom 3? You don't really want to tap at that point, so it can actually be really crappy if it's at the bottom, so you have to play this in a high consistency deck, so you kind of are playing this in a Zoo deck. Yeah, but I think it will be played in that type of deck. Hecklebot. That's right. The Screw You combo card is coming back. Hecklebot is a 4-cost 3/8 taunt. Your opponent summons a minion from their deck. This card is 5 stars, and I'll tell you why. Every single card that has ever come out that screws with your opponent's ability to play a consistent combo has seen play and has at some point, if not become meta, basically become counter-meta, anti-meta. So Hecklebot is a guaranteed we'll see play at some point in the future. It's a guarantee. Do not disenchant this card. It's going to be hilarious. People at some point are going to play some kind of combo deck, and Hecklebot is going to come in and counter exactly those decks. I'm not too happy that Hecklebot exists because I like playing combo decks, but I like also having counterplay, and pulling a minion from their deck has some serious potential for disaster, so I love me some highlights as well. Walking Fountain is a new Shaman card. Oh my god, this thing is an absolute monster. It's an 8-cost 4/8 lifesteal rush Wind Fury. Step aside, Alec here. This guy is the real deal here. So you can basically almost guarantee attack twice, so you can heal for 8 and its removal, and it possesses a massive threat on the next turn. This is late game minions done right. This is an extremely powerful card. I can see this being played in a very wide array of Shaman decks. This card just screams 5 stars to me. There's absolutely no chance that this card is bad. No chance. I think if this card is common enough, Shaman's going to make a huge comeback in Arena. It's just so ridiculous. More from Shaman, we got Muckmorpher. It's a 5-cost 4/4, and it transforms into a different minion from your deck as a 4/4. So it's pretty difficult to gauge that mechanic. You typically want these mechanics in the combo decks that you play. Shaman doesn't really have a whole lot of combos right now, but who knows? Maybe you can get like a free win from Malygos. It's just similar to Jepetto from earlier. You need to have a multi-win condition combo deck for this to see any real consistency, and that can be really hard, especially as Shaman, which traditionally has just had Malygos Shaman. So we'll see. I'm terribly optimistic with this card. I'm going to give it 3 stars. It's not hopeless. It's an alright card. It's just, it needs quite a lot of help to be any decent. Paladin Legendary Commander Rhyssa. It's a 3-cost 4/3, so already very good stats. And your secret's triggered twice. Look at that. Is this enough to make Secret Paladin a thing? Probably not. I think we are not quite there yet, as I mentioned earlier with the secret that we just saw. But this helps. This helps quite a bit. I think at some point, Secret Paladin would see play, and I think this card will be included in that deck, and maybe that deck is going to be really good. For now, I'm going to give it 4 stars. I don't think it's going to be a meta card, but no one's going to look at this card and say it's weak. This card's obviously a very strong card. It's just in Paladin, well, there are some challenges with really playing Secret Paladin. It's either been pretty mediocre or just completely game-breaking. So so far it looks like Secret Paladin is going to be on the mediocre side, but obviously that can change. Ray of Frost is a new mage twin spell. Freeze a minion, and if it's frozen, you deal 2 damage to it. So that's a pretty good effect. Small spells are always going to be very valuable in Hearthstone, and this is 2 small spells in 1 card. Just looking at that straight up, it's going to be a very good card. Ray of Frost, in my mind, is a 4-star card. The effect doesn't really matter as much as it's 2 spells. It's 2 spells that does something. If your opponent has, 2 cards and you don't want to use your board clear, well, you can freeze both of them, and you can have, synergies with Auctioneer. You can have synergies with other cards. And speaking of other cards that have synergies with playing lots of spells, Mana Cyclone. Holy crap. 2-cost 2/2. And it's an elemental, by the way. For each spell you've cast this turn, add a random mage spell to your hand. This card is completely broken. And let me tell you why. Okay, it's a 5-star card before we get anywhere. Put those 5 stars on the screen, all right? It's just really good. You play this if you play 1 spell. And it's pretty good. It's a 2-cost 2/2 that gives you a random mage spell. If you play 1 spell, 1. No, this effect triggers for every spell that you played this turn. So if you play like 6 spells, you get 6 spells. That's just like mind-blowing to me. This card seems like it's going to put Control Mage, Value Mage, maybe even Tempo Mage on the map just by itself. This is one of the best cards we've seen in this expansion, and let me tell you what. Let me end with this thought. This expansion, we've seen some really high power level stuff, but it's all been pretty conditional, pretty situational, but Mana Cyclone, it's just good all the time. Hope you guys enjoyed this review. Check out the next ones. Check out the prior ones. There's going to be more, and they're going to be a little bit shorter.